My name is Derek Monzon. I'm the trial attorney at the Sargent Law Firm. I represented a 35-year-old woman. She was hit by a big rig almost directly on the driver's side door. She suffered a concussion, a cervical C1 vertebral fracture, 9 fractured left-sided ribs, and a pelvic fracture. We received the police report, which put vehicle number 1, of course, fully at fault and no responsibility on the trucker. Unfortunately, the vehicle number 1 was minimal insurance policy, highly underinsured, so I had to get creative and try to find another way to come up with some liability on the trucker. Otherwise, this client was getting the short end of the stick fully. So I began taking depositions. I took a deposition of the truck driver. In that deposition, I was able to get some good material from him where he basically admitted he violated his own practices and procedures. Well, seeing is believing in these cases, so I realized early on that I was going to need a visual to depict what happened. So the reason I reached out to DK was to show, A, he was probably going too fast and not paying attention, and B, to show the collision intersection and the prior intersection, and to show his driving practices as he traversed each intersection. There were a number of obstacles that I faced in litigating the case. There was not much evidence that the truck driver was driving in excess of the speed limit, which was 55 miles per hour. There was no available EDR data. The truck driver testified that he was not going above that. None of the witnesses placed him as speeding or traveling in excess of the speed limit or doing anything crazy. So I kind of used his own policies and procedures against him in a way, and we were able to highlight his testimony where he testified, hey, I always slow down before the intersection, and then just showing the what-if scenario. And I also wanted to show there were no obstructions to his view. He's up in the big rig, you know, it's the middle of the desert. There's not a million pine trees or something that's obstructing the view. He easily should have been able to see that car, and that was all shown in both the animation and the what-if scenario. My client was such a tough lady. She had another baby that was already at home. She actually walked out of the emergency room on her own volition just about 3-4 days after this crash. That gives you any idea of how tough she was. She's one of the most tough people I've ever met in my life, and it was a pleasure to represent her in this case. Ultimately, the case did settle for significantly more than the CCP 998 offer upon receipt of the animation and the mediation brief. I try to use visuals as much as I can because if you're not using them, I feel like you're not fighting full strength for your client. And actually, I think it makes it easier for them to pay attention to the animation rather than just watching some boring lawyer up there flapping his gums.